Hello, hello everyone. Welcome back to another Spilling the Tea on Airbnb. Today we have a special guest, Pam Holt, who is an amazing host, as well as the founder of the Happy Host Academy. And we are just about here to bring her on. But in the meantime, you guys know the drill. Let me know where you are tuning in from. And of course, any questions that you guys have, drop them in the comment box below and we will be more than happy to answer those. So right now, I'm just going to have Pam jump on here. One moment. Oh, wow, New Jersey. Hello, Miss Patra. Thank you for tuning in. Hi, Pam.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. I am so happy
Fantastic.
to have you on here. I know we had a good chat the last time, so I'm excited to really share your story. Finally, I'm ready to dive into your story with my audience, and of course, with your audience, anyone who's tuning in that may be new with your audience. But we have so much to talk about
I
today.
know, I know, I know. I was thinking that. I was like, oh, man, I don't know if I can get it all in one little half an hour. I could go for days with you on this stuff.
Yes, we'll try to dive in. Of course, I am a bit new. We'll see. I don't know. The one thing though, I'm not sure if now that we have two people on here, if it will let me upload those pictures that we wanted to upload.
It used to, but they changed things, so I'm not quite sure.
So if
Um,
not, we'll just dive into,
that's
we'll
okay.
talk
I can
about
talk
it.
you through it. I can talk you through it.
No worries. Awesome. Okay. Well, with that being said, why don't we dive in? Pam, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started?
Okay, first of all, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I think it's so fun to talk to you. We have so many things that are passionate for both of us, so it's fun to talk to you about it because we get really excited. So anyway, long story short, I won't belabor my past because really it's about your audience and what we can do for them. But I've been a real estate broker my entire career, so I'm in Chicago. And I do residential sales, largely for a female audience. I help them with investment properties and with their primary residence. I'm also an attorney, and so I use my legal background to make sure my clients are solidly in their contracts and sort of I don't replace them as their attorney, but I'm there for additional legal support. So I've done that for a long, long time, and it was about 7 years ago when, just kind of on a whim, I decided I would try hosting. And it wasn't my idea because that didn't even occur to me. I've had a rental in my family for a long time, but this time I was planning to rent my personal residence where I live with my two kids and my big old dog. So I was kind of reluctant because I was thinking, I just have a house. I don't have I'm not on a beach. I'm on the south side of Chicago. It's not what I would typically, or at the time at least, typically think about as a very profitable kind of rental. And I was wrong. So I went to Africa. My daughter was in Africa, and I decided to go over and meet her and spend a few days in Africa. And so we got there. Right before we got there, I put the place up willy nilly. I put it up, a few photographs that I had taken myself, a really bad description, everything I tell people not to do, I did. I just kind of threw it up there and I was like, well, whatever happens, happens. But what happened was really, really good. So we get over there and I started to get more and more bookings. So I'm like, hey, what's happening here? And because I had a support team at home, I have a cleaning service that I already had in place, they could handle the turnover. So what I thought was going to be about a 5-day trip to Africa turned into 3 weeks there and three different countries. We moved all around. And I started to think, and I didn't pay for any of it. So the rentals continued to pay for everything. When I got back, I was like, okay, this could be something. This is interesting. But I still wasn't completely convinced. And I was like, all right, well, let's just see what happens. let me put, that was like July. So I said, let me put it on for the rest of the year and kind of see what happens. And when we did get guests, I would stay, my mom lives nearby, we'd stay with my mom, or sometimes we'd stay at a hotel or whatever, because I was charging more than the hotels that I would be renting. So even if, and sometimes, I would take my kids and we would just do something, very different and stay at a hotel that was very different from how we normally live on a day-to-day basis. So by the end of October, so from July to October, my house made $50,000. And I was like,
Amazing.
okay, okay, so what would this do, in 12 months? So the next year, I tried it for the whole year and it made $100,000. And it was at that point I was like, all right, I have a business here. This is something that, if I really spent some time tweaking, learning about, perfecting, this could really be, something substantial. So that's what I did. I started to, improve my amenities based on who I thought was going to be my ideal guest. And now these days, I have tripled my initial nightly rate. So now I'm one of the most expensive Airbnb units in Chicago. And, I've got guests coming tomorrow, and it's fantastic. In the meantime, I've taken my children and we've gone all over the world. We've been to Europe multiple times, and we've been to Mexico, and we've been to Belgium and Paris, and we spent time in the south of France. We go everywhere. We're going next month. We're going scuba diving in the Red Sea and touring Egypt. So it has hosting has changed the way I live my life, because selling real estate is a very location specific kind of job. You can't live in multiple places. You can't even travel that much because you have to be in one place so that you can service your clients. But hosting, I've never even met any of my hosts, because by the time they get here, I'm on a plane someplace else. So it's, I'm kind of liking it. I have to say, it's kind of been a great thing for us.
Yes, that is absolutely amazing. And first things first, we have to, you are a triple threat. So you said you're a broker, the attorney, and then an amazing host on top of that. Well, and of course, a wonderful mom. So like you already
That's the
wear
part I'm
so many
proud
different
about, yes.
hats.
But you know what's so funny is I was doing these kind of, separate kind of isolated things. My undergraduate degree is in design and architecture, but and so I worked for an ad agency for a while. So I was doing marketing for them, right? And graphic design. And then I got my real estate license. And so I was doing these different kinds of things, and I never figured out how to really pull them all together in a way that, all of them can be in play at one time. And then I stumbled on hosting. I'm like, oh my God, I know how to do customer service. That's what I do.
Mm,
I know real estate. I know how to stage a property because I have to stage all of my clients' properties for sale. I know how to do marketing. I can write ads. I've looked at millions of listings for sale and for rent over my career. So I know what, makes a place pop off the page. I was like, this is it. I found it. It's all come together. I now know what I was brought here to do. And it took me a really long time to figure it out. But I always knew that there was a way that I was going to get it together, and I was going to help largely a female audience, although I'm an equal opportunity educator. But I'm going to help women understand how they can create a stream of income by hosting their own spaces they already own. So not
mm,
necessarily, and we may get to it, we may not. We may get to scaling and identifying new investment properties, but I want people to know that they can rent the house that they live in, a room in that
mm.
house, the basement, the attic, the coach house, a garage space. There are spaces in your home that are sitting underutilized, and you could be, like I said, making 100 grand off of them. I have I have a 4 bedroom home, and so I typically host 4 to 6, sometimes 8 guests, and not nothing a whole lot special about it, I have to say, but it's I'm doing $1,500 a night, and I'm booked. I'm not booked as often maybe as some people, because I live here, so I can't take all bookings, and my daughter's still in school, so I typically rent from like May to October sometimes. So it's not even a full year for me. And it's a viable scenario for a lot of people if you know how to put it in play and make it run. Kind of like you, the way you
Yeah.
did it.
Yes. Well, I love that you said that. And one of the questions that we had that a lot of people were wondering was and you kind of answered this halfway, but can Airbnb still be profitable enough to replace a full-time job if you are mainly renting out the home that you live in?
Yes, but it depends on your space. It depends on your location. It depends on how you positioned it. It's possible. It just you kind of have to evaluate your scenario. So I always tell people, first start with identifying who might be your guest, who's coming to your space, and why are they coming there. So for me, I live close by a big convention center. So I get travelers in town going to conferences and trade shows and those kinds of things. So if you live near a destination, and it doesn't have to be a convention center, it could be an airport, it can be a hospital or a university. But if you live someplace where people come, then you already have you got kind of built in a platform to work with. So
Mm-hmm.
if your destination isn't a big draw, you may have to work harder with some other aspects of your space and of your listing overall. But I think you can get there. And if you can't completely replace your income, you can make a nice dent in it. You can go on a nice trip, or you can, last year I replaced my roof and my hot water heater, my furnace, and everything, and guests paid for all of it. So you can make some inroads if you don't completely replace your income.
Yes, that is amazing. And I love that you said that you did the repairs on your home or any renovations on your home, because that's a big thing. People wouldn't even consider that. They'd be like, oh, just extra money, a trip, or, paying for even your kids' university, anything
I
like that.
paid for
But
college. I paid for private school. I paid off credit cards. I've made this house, work for me. I don't work for this house anymore. It works for me. It pays for itself and then some. It pays for my lifestyle now. And that's what I want everybody to know
hmm
that real estate can do. And even if you don't own your space, if you're renting it, there are scenarios where you can still make that work for you.
hmm
And, why wouldn't you? I just, now I'm like, come on, why wouldn't you do this? I want everybody to know that they can do this. And even if you don't do it right now, I would suggest learn how to host, learn the basics, get the background. And then, 3 years from now, if you want to go on a trip, or if you find yourself in need of some extra cash, or if you come into a property by way of divorce or marriage or empty nesting, put it in use then. But have the skills already in place so that you can, spend a day, put your listing up, and start making money. That same week, you could get guests in by the end of that week. And what other business can you think of that you could get up and running that quickly?
Right? And okay, so I think one of the big questions, and my fiance is one of these people, that a lot of people have, and there's a lot of people that are still kind of in this boat. They want to get into Airbnb. They like the
Mhm.
idea, and
Okay.
maybe they have their own home, maybe they have a vacation property. There are a lot of people in this world that cannot get over the fact of strangers in their bed or touching their
Uh,
things. How did you deal with this mentality? I try to put it to my
okay.
fiance all the time that it is not a big deal, but to
Oh,
each their
here's what I
own.
say, because I understand this, because I was like, okay, what do you mean strangers in my bed? That was, I was like, I'm not doing that. So what happens is you pull back a little bit, and it's not for everybody. If you are super emotionally tied to your space, if this is a property that was passed down through generations and generations, or your great grandfather built the home, or you have some really close emotional attachment to it, then it may not be for you. But if this is a house, a piece of property for you, pull back a little bit, let go of the emotion, and then start to think about what's this going to mean to me when the money starts rolling in? For me, I would rather have somebody staying in my bed and be on a fantastic trip with my kids, making those lifelong memories while somebody else pays for them. To me, that's
Mhm.
more important. And if that's not the case for you and you can't get to it, I understand. You can work it out with another property. It doesn't have to be your primary residence. But if you do have the ability to do it in your primary residence, it's just a faster, less expensive way to get started because you already have stuff. You've got furniture. You're not starting from scratch in another space, in a new space. But I tell you that it feels a lot better when you get that direct deposit than it does when you're thinking about, them in your bed. And of course, you protect all your stuff. Your really important things you'll remove from the home, or you'll create an owner's closet and you'll lock them away, or if you have some particular items that are very personal, you'll put those away. And I have to tell you, people aren't coming over to just touch your stuff. They're not staying with you just to. I mean, they're coming to town. They're on a vacation. They may not even be at your place that often, or if they are, it's not to come and touch your stuff. So, you know,
And
just
that,
get beyond it. Try it. Just try it. And if you don't like it, stop doing it.
and that
All
is
you do
so
is,
true.
yeah. I mean, I think people think that they're coming. People are coming in and they're just going to trash your place. I've never had anything like that happen. There are things that you do that you put in place, verifications and
Mhm.
a background, not a background search, but you get to know the person a little bit before you say yes to them. And if you have a bad feeling that they're coming for a party or some major rager, then that's not a guest who stays with you. And you say thanks, no thanks. And so I've never had anything broken. I've never had anything stolen. I had one person spill one thing, and I submitted a claim and got my money back in total, 100%. So, you know, it's not the nightmare everybody thinks in their mind that it's going to be. I know, I was there too. I was like, oh, I don't like germs. This is going to be icky. But it wasn't. But I will say one thing. I learned how to manage myself a little bit. Before I come back to my home, I have my cleaning service go through. And so by the time I get back, it's like it didn't even happen. Everything is back in place because people will shift things around a little bit to suit, their needs. Everything's back in place. All my linens are clean. It's like it never happened, except for the fact that I have, $6,000 more of money in my account. So,
Amazing. So Miss Patra said, well, we both know the answer to this one. So in the event that a host does damages, will Airbnb assist or provide insurance for Superhost? Do you want to answer that one, Pam?
Um, they will, but you have to build a case. And so you have to have photos. Now, I'm speaking from, I submitted my claim to Verbo. So I have not had an Airbnb claim. So I'm talking about Verbo, but I assume it's exactly the same or very similar. So I submitted photos of the damage immediately. I called their customer service and I said, look for this. This is coming in. I wrote up, what happened. I had receipts. You have to have a receipt. And I got my money back, I don't know, maybe a week later.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a problem.
Perfect. And I love that you talked about Verbo too, because it shows that you're not just on the one platform.
No, I'm not.
But to answer Miss Petra, yes, Airbnb has air cover. They do have their own insurance policy that will cover damages. Of course, just like Pam said, proof, photos that you want to have of any damages in the home, as well as your conversation with the host. One thing that's really
Mm-hmm.
big that a lot of people don't realize is keep that conversation in the platforms. Do not be calling them, do not be texting them,
Right.
because that conversation is what Airbnb, Verbo, any of the other platforms refer back to when these claims are happening. So if you said,
Right.
oh, well, we said this on the phone, that's not going to protect you in the long run. So really make sure, even if they're talking to you over text, be like, hey, can we just continue this conversation back in the app? Just so everything is in there in case Airbnb needs to get involved. That's one thing. But on top of insurance coverage, One thing I would say, Pam, I'm not sure, do you have a third party insurance company
Oh
that
yeah,
covers your
yeah,
stuff?
I
So,
do.
yes, exactly, like proper insurance is one of the big ones in the States. Pam, do you
Hmm.
use anyone specifically?
It's I have a rider on my regular homeowner's insurance, and that I find sufficient. I also do a rental agreement with my guests. So in addition to what they'll verify and agree to in the Airbnb or Verbo platform, they have to agree to my house rules. So
Hmm.
you can't smoke. You can't be out on my roof deck past. I mean, I've got neighbors. You can't be out there all night with a party. So I'm very specific in what you can and cannot do in my home, and it's worked out really well. I would say, and this is the lawyer in me, I would say stay on the platform for all of your conversations because you never know what's going to come back and be important if there's something that you need to go to Airbnb or whoever it is for assistance. So and you can always tell if you are being approached by someone who's a fraudulent guest. They want to
Hmm.
get off the platform as fast as possible. They want to get on WhatsApp or they want to, text you. They want to email you some whack-to-do email address. That is not a good idea. Even if it's a viable guest, it's not a good idea legally to get off the platform. One, because Airbnb and Vrbo will kick you off of their platform forever for doing something like that. But two, you want that written record. That's some legal advice for you. You want a written record of what's going on. So stay on the platform.
Yes. And so we do have a question from Jennifer. I'm not sure, Pam, do you do any rental arbitrage as well, or just your property right now?
I've done rental arbitrage. One of the couple of the years that I had my house really making a lot of money, I was getting so many bookings that I picked up a rental unit nearby for myself. And so my daughters and I would use it sort of as a hotel room when we weren't in our house. But then we went away. We went to France for the whole summer, and I rented that out. And so while I was gone, my house was making money and my apartment was making money. My apartment was only rented kind of like on the weekends, but it was, I made 6 grand a month on my rental apartment. So
Hmm.
yes, I
Amazing.
do arbitrage. Yeah, I'm not doing it right now. The thing about arbitrage, I want people to be careful with it because there were a lot of people who were doing rental arbitrage, and then the pandemic hit, right?
Hmm.
And if you didn't have and this is the same for other properties, I suppose, but it was really critical in the arbitrage scenarios. If you didn't have extra a reserve, you still had to pay your rent, even
Hmm.
if you weren't getting short-term rental guests. And for Airbnb, they stopped allowing rentals for a while, at least here in Chicago. And so all of those people were just stuck with empty units that they couldn't rent, but their actual rent to their landlord was still due. So make sure you have a reserve if you're going to go that route.
Yes. So one of the questions, Jennifer's actually a student in my program, but she's had a bit of a hard time getting the conversation going with
Mm.
any landlords in the Chicago area specifically.
Ah,
So she's saying the conversation goes dry once Airbnb or short term rental is mentioned. Do you have any solutions or advice in Chicago? So, with this, usually in our process, we make sure that they go through any objections that the landlords might bring up. So, we practice objection handling, their pitch, and everything like that. I'm not sure, of course, in Chicago if there's anything in particular, but do you have any piece of advice that you'd like to give her?
You know what? Chicago is a real tough place to do this. There are a lot of regulations, and the code is very specific now. I'm in a battle with Chicago right now over my own space, so it's tough. And I think that people in Chicago are very afraid that some of the activity that's going on in some of the other neighborhoods is going to be, multiplied in an Airbnb scenario, and actually it has. But I would say try to find a landlord in a smaller property,
Mm-hmm.
and you might even consider, splitting, funds with them. I mean, some of the income that you generate, you might tell them, okay, my rent is X, whatever. I'll pay you X plus this month if you allow me to do this. And then you talk to them, I've got to have this property in pristine condition at all times.
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of your property better than a regular tenant would because my income depends on it. I'm going to have extra insurance. I don't want any nonsense going on because that's going to reflect back to me. I'm going to be on top of this. I'm better than a regular long-term rental tenant.
Yeah.
So it's tough. You got to go through a lot of people. You do. And
Yeah.
Chicago just makes it really, really tough.
And
I would say consider another city, frankly. It's getting real hard here.
yes, and I agree with that completely. And that was one of the things that we were talking about. I do think also it is really important. Make sure that, check your nerves at the door, go in confident. The more confident you are, the better your pitch will go. But one of the things
Hmm.
that Jennifer and I were actually looking at was the outside surrounding cities that had a little bit more relaxed rules
Yeah.
when it came to short-term rental.
Yeah. I would say Chicago is squeezing us. And so maybe some other areas might be more a better intro.
Yeah. And so, with that, let's dive back into the topic. How do you depersonalize your home when guests are staying? So, when you get a booking and you have to plan for that, what is your procedure like?
You mean in terms of what do I have here in the house, or do I?
Yeah, do you take any family photos down,
Oh,
anything like that?
um, I yeah, sort of. I don't have family photos up right now, but I do have all of the items that I collect on my various trips. I have all my art here. I have all my books here. I have everything except really our clothes and photos. And I feel like that's part of what makes my home attractive to guests because it's not a sterile environment. It's got personality because I live here, so I've got my stuff here, and I think that's really important. I want people to know that um, they're competing. We're now competing across the board. Even if you're just renting a room in your home, you're competing with boutique hotels and international conglomerates for guests because we're all on Airbnb and Verbo, but there's no differentiation between what's a boutique room, what's a room in somebody's space. It's all in there together. So you got to stand out from these places, and the way you do it is through your personality, is
Mm-hmm.
through the stuff that you have, that they don't have. They haven't been on your trips, so they haven't collected the stuff that you have. They don't have the interest that you have, so they haven't decorated in a way that reflects them. They've got some, you know, they're essentially a hotel room, and you are an experience. So I have, the more of my stuff, the more of myself that I can have in my space, I think the more people are attracted. They want to come and have a local stay. Otherwise they could stay at the Hilton, 2 blocks
Mm-hmm.
away. So,
And
go ahead.
no, well, I was just actually saying that I actually think hosts that mainly host their personal properties or homes that they stay at, or at least start that way, I do
Hmm.
believe that they actually provide a more personalized stay,
Yes.
as well as their hospitality, I would like to say, is a little bit more elevated than someone that doesn't have that attachment to their home or their location.
I think so too. And I think that's what makes the difference. You're going to care about, in my opinion, you're going to care more about what happens in your home and how that's experienced than somebody who's got, 100 other spaces that they've decorated, whatever from IKEA and in mass. And, you've got things that have been passed down. You've got a story in your space, and it's the story of you, and you are interesting and you're
Mm-hmm.
unique, and so you are your superpower. So you're the hosting superpower in your experience, and the more you can express that, even in your description and your personal profile and how you take your photos and how the decor is laid out, the more the better, the more interesting it is. And I think that's important. I think guests relate to that.
Yes. And so that's the perfect segue. So I might try to do the picture thing. I think I could like switch my camera and do it the ghetto way if we want to. Um, but We will try our best to make this work.
Okay, that's all right. If it doesn't, it's okay. I can tell you what I think, ways that you can pull in your personality. So you can
Yes,
try it, but if not, I can still do
we'll
it.
try. So you mentioned that you teach your Happy Host Academy members, and so tell us as we go into this, tell us a little bit more about the Happy Host Academy. But you teach them about infusing their personalities into their space in
Right,
three specific ways. I'm
right.
big on this topic. I absolutely love this and 100% agree with you. So, can you please go in more detail on your three areas or the three ways that you think hosts should focus the most on in this space?
Okay, so I teach there's three ways. You can bring it in through your space. So that's like if you have a log cabin or a igloo or a yurt or, a potato house or somebody with a house that's shaped
I
like a
saw
potato.
that one.
Yeah, then you have personality kind of, by definition. So for those of us who don't live in a potato, there are other ways that we can do it. You can bring it in through your story. And so part of my story that I tell is that I'm very big on raising money for breast cancer research. So in my profile, I've indicated that, I raised money. I paid for over 100 mammograms by my fundraising. And as a result, I've had several different women's groups contact me about renting my space.
Mm.
And so I know it's working. I'm connecting with people based on my interest. And the other way is you can bring it in through your culture. And so I bring mine in. I collect masks. So whenever I go to a different country, I try to find a mask to bring back that represents that culture. So I've got, different travel. I got some crazy stuff all over the place from different places representing their cultures. So you can bring it in that way. You can do it. You can bring it in through your awards. Like I don't have a whole lot of awards, but if you had a lot of awards, if you're like a sports person or whatever, you had a whole bunch of trophies and stuff, that's interesting because that's not everybody's story. And so you can weave it into your decor, you can weave it into your story, you can make it a special aspect of you. And it only takes 3 items to be a collection. So you can, if you have 3 of something, you're on your way to a collection, and you can make the story around that. And then the last thing that I tell people is you can show your personality through your above and beyond service. So if you are out here, picking up guests from the airport or providing a handwritten note or, leaving them a bottle of wine that's branded with your company name on it. If you're working on the service aspect of it, there are lots of different things you can do to differentiate yourself from other people that aren't doing anything. So,
Yeah.
so that's quickly, I wanted to get it all in there quickly, but that's quickly the 3 S's: space, service, and story.
Perfect. And so tell us a bit about, okay, let's try to flip the screen here and see on my computer if this works. Let's see. Oh, did it go? There, can you
Oh,
see
good.
that?
Okay, okay. Yeah. Okay, so this is someone who's built a gallery wall from a collection of different items that they had and loved, put it all together in one space. I think it's wildly interesting. I'd love to get up closer and see what all those little pieces are. They've got an old record player and some of their albums. Who wouldn't want to sit there, in the evening after going to a conference or something and playing some of those albums and, seeing what this person is about? I love this picture because I think some of those are just like hand drawn things from, kids or
Hmm.
whatever. It's really cute.
Yeah, I think that is a good, it really is a nice eclectic space. And just
It's
like you said,
warm.
listening to the albums, really, you kind of step into, someone's life in that moment, it almost feels like as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's inviting, and you want to sit on that couch and check out those albums.
Let's see
You
what we
know?
got here for the next one. Oh, this is a
Okay,
fun one.
so this is fun because remember I said it only takes 3 things to create a collection. So it doesn't really matter what those three things are. But if you're, passionate about something, show it off, make it into some, make it more deliberate, and then write your story about it. I collect, gym shoes, and I've got all these, and some of them are from special runs, and here they are, they're on display like they're artwork because they are artwork. And I think it's really cool. I think that's cool.
This is one of those ones that you'll definitely be hoping people aren't touching your thing.
Maybe you put them in an acrylic
A
case or
case.
something if you're worried about it. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, we got a fun one here too. I'll zoom out a little bit.
Okay. So this is about, your culture. So, you bring in a few touches that represent interesting things that you picked up along your travels, or, if you have a particular interest in a particular, a part of the world. I want to caution people though and tell them, don't go overboard with it. Don't make it look like a gift shop, don't have every single piece, there, just, like you picked it all up at one time and you put it all together. Make it look like, have some new pieces, some old pieces, some, add some texture, and express yourself.
Yes.
I think that looks nice too. I would love to sit on that couch and flip through those coffee table books.
I love a good coffee table book so much. Speaking
Right.
of
Okay.
knickknacks, here we go. We got lots of tchotchkes on this one.
This is Serena Williams' bookcase. Okay, so you don't have to be Serena Williams to have a collection of awards and trophies, and there's a Wheaties box. You don't have to have your own Wheaties box to be interesting, but put your collectibles together, make it an artful kind of display, and then build your story around it. I'm telling you, this is the kind of thing that is wildly more interesting than some service department that has none of this to look at. I think it works. I know it works.
It definitely works. I would love to stay at Serena Williams' house.
Exactly.
Perfect. I think we have our last photo, and this one is so fun. I can't wait to hear what you say about this space.
Isn't this cute? Okay, so on the wall, if you can't tell, those are a collection of necklaces on display. And so, if you're like me and you have a bunch of junk jewelry, put it on display, and it looks like a museum. It's really it's interesting, it's eclectic, it's personal, and it's inexpensive. This is stuff that was probably sitting in a box before this person hung it up on the wall. And I think it makes for a very one of a kind of experience for a guest. So, and this one's easy. That's probably some tax or something that they use to put those up with. That one is super inexpensive, but packs a lot of character. I love it.
And I agree with this so much, because one of the things that I always tell my students is think Instagram worthy, or think what's going to draw people in to, and I love an unexpected bathroom or powder room that you walk into that has some funky wallpaper. But really, the more that you have a unique space, it also benefits you in the way that, okay, let's say you do have an Instagram account for your property or anything like that. People are going to post more, they're going to share the property more, which then is free marketing for you and drives more bookings to your property at the end of the day.
Yeah, this image is on my Instagram account because I think it's really cool.
It is really cool.
You're right.
Okay, now I'm back here.
Fantastic. That was good.
I'm glad we were able to make it work.
Thank you.
So with that, I wanted to touch base. Now it's been a couple of days. How do you feel now that we both are published authors?
You mean about this?
Yes.
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm just, so anybody who's watching, if you don't know, the two of us and 38 of our closest friends are #1 best-selling authors internationally.
Yes.
We're all together in a collaborative book project called The Hospitable Host, which I'm sure you've heard about through all the things that you've done to display the project. Yes. And it's been fantastic. It's great collaborating with so many interesting people, and it's fun to be in print and try to get out there to more people. And I've
Mm.
loved it. I've loved the experience in ways that I never expected that it would be as exciting. It's been very fun, very
Uh,
fun.
It is so
So,
exciting, and I already put mine one of my copies into my rental on the coffee table, and I've like
me too.
I marked on my chapter, and I was like, learn about your host or like anything
Oh,
like
that's
that.
good. That's good. That's
So
good. Yeah, I have a little bookmark in mine, and it's sitting out with my other, coffee table books on top, of course.
yeah, I'm so happy for that, and I can't wait for guests to check in and read that and be like, "Oh, that is such a unique thing to come across that their host is now in a published novel." Um,
Right.
with that, I'm waiting for more to come in now, so I don't get my copy to show anymore. Um,
Oh, gotta order
I
more. Everybody,
Yes,
order
I
more.
know. Order more. Um, let's talk about, because I know we're going to jump into where we'll wrap up soon, but where people can find you, about how they can join the Happy Host Academy. But I know if anybody is interested in, of course, picking up a book, you can purchase it from Amazon. But
Right.
as well as if anybody is traveling soon, especially to the short term rental wealth summit in Nashville in June, you will be able to not only grab a book, you will be able to meet Pam and I in person.
Right, right, right. We're signing books.
Yes.
Who
We
knew?
will
Yes.
personally hand you a book.
Right, 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 right. We'll read from our chapters for you.
Oh man, that makes me nervous. But I am so excited. So anybody, if you are looking to attend the short-term rental wealth summit, we will be happy to see you there. Come
Mhm.
up to us, say hello. Show us your copy of the book, and ask us questions, of course. But with that, Pam, how can people join the Happy Host Academy? How can they get in touch with you?
So I'm at the Happy Host Academy across all social platforms. But I did want to announce, and this is a special announcement
Of
for your
course.
audience. Next month, I'm creating a community so that everyone who's interested in, even if you haven't started yet, or even if you've started and it's not going as well as you might have thought, um, join the academy. We're going to all come together and we're going to bounce ideas off of one another, and I'm going to teach into the community. And little birdie tells me maybe you might teach into the community as well. And we're going to make sure that everyone has all the skills that they need to be successful short-term rental hosts. And and if you want to replace your 9 to 5 job with it, I'm on board with that, and I can help you.
Yes.
Tatiana can help you. We can get you there, and it's just a matter of finding someone to sort of walk you through it. Because I'm sure you could find your way on your own, but I guarantee it will take you a lot longer. You will flail around, because I know I flailed around, and I have a background in real estate. And you will spend a lot of money that you wouldn't necessarily have to if you had asked us some of those questions ahead of time. So I'm looking forward to that for next month. And if anybody's interested, you can DM me. I'll put you on the list,
Hmm.
and let you know as soon as the doors open for our new academy. I'm calling it the campus. So it's the
I
Happy
love
Host
that.
Academy campus. Come on to the campus, and we're going to have our study groups, and we're going to matriculate all the way through till superhost. So that's my
Yes.
exciting news.
And
Yeah.
definitely, you guys, message Pam in her DMs, contact her, reach out. She has so much value to offer, and there's so much to learn. And even just in the Happy Host Academy, connecting and building that community with other people, because you never know, you could be you could meet your next business partner, you could meet your new best
Hmm.
friend, like who knows what is going to happen. Before I let you go, Pam, we had one other question, which was,
Hmm.
what is an estimate amount a person or team may need to begin the process? And I think this is a good question, because coming from the perspective of where you mainly host your home, I would love to know what you think about this.
So this kind of depends also, what are you hosting? If you're hosting your home and you already have a full, uh, you know, full-blown household with everything in it, you could literally start with a set of new sheets,
Mm-hmm.
some new towels, and some insurance, and you want to make sure that all your repairs, everything works in your home. You could get started with very little. Now that's very different if you're starting from a place that's completely vacant.
Mm-hmm.
That could be expensive depending on the size, of course. And there's no way to really give you a ballpark for that one. But if you're hosting your own home or a bedroom, extra bedroom in your own home, you can literally start with a trip to Target and a couple $100. And there's a registration fee now with at least in Chicago with Airbnb, so you'd have to pay that. I think it's $125. But you could get in for under $500, depending on what you're doing. So, what other business can you start for $500?
Yeah.
You'd want to open up a bank account. You'd likely, if you're going to do it on a regular basis, you'd likely want to get an LLC. But those are also things that are easy to do yourself. You don't have to have an attorney. I could walk you through that. And you could be up and running official for $500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's the
hard to
best.
believe.
People can't wrap their head around it, and I tell people all the time, like, it name another business out there, like, I'd have to really think about it, that can give you such a high ROI as quick as it can, other than short-term rentals.
Right, right. I mean, you could start, the first thing I would do if I were starting, the first real money I would spend is on photography. But
Mm-hmm.
if you want to get out there and try some of your own photos, I'm going to be teaching that whole minor in photography. See, I told you all this stuff came together
You
for me.
are so
I
many.
didn't know. But now I'm going to teach, some basic kind of iPhone photography for your listings. I want people to, that first amount of money that they do earn, I want them to have professional photos done because that's really important. But, just to get out there and to sort of test the waters, I can walk you through getting photos that would be good enough to get up and running. So we're going to do
Mhm.
that too inside the academy.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your joining us today. Really, we learned so much, and I loved the photo thing that we went through. Regardless if it showed up how we wanted to or not, it was great, and I think
That
that
was
gives
good.
people a true perspective of how they can really infuse their personalities into their spaces. Thank you so much. Um,
Sure.
Again, you guys, give Pam a follow at the Happy Host Academy. And I'm sure you guys will get to see us next time in person. We will jump on live in Nashville.
Yes, we will. June 6th through the 8th.
Perfect. You have a
All right.
wonderful day, Pam. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks for having
Bye,
me. Appreciate
everyone.
it. Bye.